destination where we talk about news, we talk about culture, and where we have a vacation episode. It is July 4th week. We hope you're having a wonderful time off, and I hope it's a time off. We have put away a couple of really delightful conversations to share with you guys for this holiday episode. So without further ado, let's get into it. Next topic. People with lower cognitive ability are more likely to fall for pseudo-profound bullshit was the headline of an article sent to us by listener Michael, and I immediately wanted to talk about it. Oh my God. And to do just that, I am joined by incredible comedian and podcaster Pete Dominick, whose show is Stand Up with Pete Dominick. Hey, Pete.
Hey, Negin. Thank you so much for having me.
I am also joined by Washington Post journalist and author of the incredible new book, Hubris Maximus, The Shattering of Elon Musk. It is the wonderful Faiz Siddiqui. Hey, Faiz.
Hey, it's great to be here.
Okay, so this piece is like, it's a little weird. It's essentially like dumb people fall for dumb shit, is maybe, but it's like, okay, let me just give you an example. So there's this 2015 study, and it took phrases like, hidden meaning transforms unparalleled abstract beauty. And it had people rate these statements. And by the way, that thing I just read, hidden meaning transforms unparalleled abstract beauty, sort of means like literally nothing. And what they found was that some people consistently rate statements like this as, quote, profound, even though they were just random buzzwords generated into phrases.
That sounds like something I'd do. I'm a dummy.
Oh my God. I'm so glad you said this, because so much of this study ended up making me wonder about myself and how much shit I fall for because it sounds good. And anyways, it made me feel weird. Researchers developed, I think this is all just really fun. Researchers developed a bullshit receptivity scale. That's what it's called. A bullshit receptivity scale. They provided the participants with the meaningly, syntactically correct statements and then asked them to rate the profundity. They cross-analyzed the data with variables like intelligence. And then it turns out that people who scored higher in receptivity to pseudo-profound bullshit were more likely to believe in conspiracy theories, religious and paranormal claims, and greater faith in institutions. So if you're and had greater faith in intuition. I
was going to say that I'm smart enough to realize that last thing you said didn't make sense. If they had greater faith in institutions, they probably
this would not be. Yeah. And
yeah, I'm smart.
So okay, so first off, I guess does any of this study that we read about in psychologypost.org, does it resonate with you?
These studies to me are generally speaking bullshit and clickbait. But people with lower cognitive ability are more likely to fall for pseudo-profound bullshit. And I call bullshit on the thesis because what does it mean? What is lower cognitive ability? How do you measure that? How do you measure intelligence? And I'm sensitive about it because I have always thought I was below average or average intelligence. I did good in school, but not good in high school. Didn't get into any colleges, but I had a very successful career. Some people now consider me an intellectual because I've been hosting a public interest program, interviewing intellectuals my whole life, but I still feel like a dummy because I measure intelligence in a different kind of way, in a lot of different kinds of ways. And one of the ways I do is how good is your memory? One of the reasons I didn't do good in schools because I wasn't good on tests. I wasn't good on tests because I couldn't remember the stuff. I worked very hard at studying. I worked hard, just couldn't remember stuff. So people with great memories are often really smart because they remember everything they learned, experienced, or read. That ain't me. So I get stuck on what is smart. And finally, because I hosted a live radio show for so long and interviewed so many smart people, I was embarrassed publicly so often by believing things that weren't true that I got better at critical thinking and realizing that I've got to, look at this and look at that before I come to a conclusion in public that's consequential, much less as a parent or something like that. So I think these things are really hard to measure. And I think phrases like critical thinking and cognitive abilities and stuff are very subjective. But you guys are both, I'm guessing, traditionally educated, formally educated, and both really successful. I certainly know that about you, Negin, and I'm assuming that about Faiz. He's a Washington Post reporter and an author. You guys are, quote, traditionally intelligent. So your answer matters more to me than mine.
So I would... I would push back on because I agree with your answer, but I just think from a personal perspective, like I feel similarly about my own background. Of course, I am proud of my education. I went to college, but I went to like a Big Ten school, and I'm in like an environment where
you should have said that. Forget
what'd you say? That's another sports reference. But I am in an environment surrounded by like a lot of people who went to Ivy League schools and have like advanced degrees, and in journalism, and especially like in the field that I'm in with newspapers, like you are not expected to write like this, like use these like highfalutin phrases or like lose the reader with your vocabulary. Actually, like the worst thing, and I love the people who say this, but like when people are talking about my book, they're like, "You lost me with this word." I'm like, "Oh God!" Like my whole goal was to make this accessible and like digestible for any reader, right? And so I then view the quote unquote pseudo intellectual bullshit with like a lot of skepticism, because I'm like, what are we doing here? Are we just showing off like our grasp of these like highly academic terms, and like are we not stringing them together into like coherent prose? And I think it's become a thing. It's become like a thing among, I'm sorry, but like activism loves this, right? And so I just find I am skeptical of like language that I feel like is intended to like alienate yourself from the normal reader and sort of like show off.
Although pseudo-intellectual seems to be a term we could probably mostly agree on.
Yeah, like I think the vibes of your study are right. I don't know if the study is right though. Like it's just
right. Yeah, well, I do too. I'm biased to agree with such a study, but I don't know how
it resonates. But like,
one of the findings was one of the findings was the link between bullshit receptivity and motivational quotes. Like the more you sort of believed in motivational quotes,
I'm screwed again.
Which I thought was interesting, right? Because one of the things, I mean, it's funny because I wrote like a 6,000 word piece about doing, mushrooms at a fuck ton of psilocybin at a retreat in Jamaica, and for a travel magazine. And I talked a lot about motivational quotes because a lot of the findings that I had kind of be boiled down into the shit that goes under like kitten posters, like my experience of therapy is a lot of like what is embroidered on a pillow. And so some of that is like it's like there's like such fundamental truth to some of those motivational quotes or whatever that like that you spend years in therapy trying to get to that pillow. And so part of me was like, oh no, I don't like that's weird. I don't want to promote those. I recognize those motivational quotes as being fucking cheesy. You know what I mean? But also, but believing them being maybe sometimes, whatever, emotionally useful. And I think you're right, Pete. Like I'm one of these people that does have all of the traditional academic, blah blah blah, Ivy League, etc. Like was a perfect student in many regards. But the interesting thing is, one of my earliest academic memories was like in 3rd or 4th grade. I didn't make it into the G&T program because like I tested on the cusp or whatever of whatever.
Gifted and talented. They don't have it anymore.
Yes.
They ended it with you.
They ended it with me. No, I remember like I measured on the cusp or whatever, but I was sufficiently motivated and driven as like a fucking 8-year-old. So I came home and I said to my mom, like, this will not stand. You must get me into the elite program, and that's that. And like she literally went to school and was like, I don't even know what I'm here arguing specifically, but my daughter believes she should be in the higher thing. So let's do it. And they were like, okay. And like and that put me on the path. That put me on the path. Like the actual
that program put me on, but that's my point earlier, not to interrupt you, but that program, Gifted and Talented, put me on the path of I'm not gifted and talented. And I am. I actually am. It's just not the way that it was measured. And, you know, we had reading groups that were named, you know, goats and rams. Like it could have been anodyne, but you knew that you weren't in the gifted and talented or that you were learning disabled. I wasn't either, but it didn't, I didn't feel like I could be, or that I ever was going to be. School told me that I wasn't smart and didn't tell me that curiosity is a measure of intelligence, because nobody asked more questions than me, but I interrupted you.
Sorry, go ahead.
Faiz, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, I similarly was just like repeatedly on the threshold of these programs, and like, are we all mentally like affected by this? Like, it's like you were good enough to get there, but like, are you good enough to stay there?
Yeah. So then I think it also made me into a fucking machine, I think is what it made me into. Yep. Because then I spent my entire academic career being like, oh yeah, I'll fucking show you, you motherfucker. And then it's like, and then I graduated like, you know, in the top 3 of my school, and I did go to Ivy League schools. I got not 1 but 3 Ivy League degrees. Like I fucking overdid it trying to prove someone from 3rd grade. You know what I mean?
You actually recently, you don't want to talk about it, but I saw you spit on a state school student. I thought was really outrageous, Negin. I'm like, what kind of an elitist are you? Like that seemed like a lot.
I think part of it was almost like, it's part of it was maybe just like a grand plan to get me to be motivated or something. You know what I mean? Like, you know what'll make this girl work harder. What are we doing?
Like, it did work for you, but like this one size fits all, that's what's wrong with.
No, I agree. Yeah.
And you know, you get a lot of people, you put them through the ringer, but like we ended up where we ended up, or we didn't, because at some point you challenged Oliver Stone in a live interview and said, I don't think that's right.
Is any of us better off than the motivational pillow person or the pseudo-intellectual BS, like who genuinely like finds comfort in those things?
Yeah, me. I am definitely a product like those motivation. I have the "Don't Quit" poem on my fridge that was given to me in 1989, and I've surrounded myself with motivational phrases and all that shit worked on me. Still does.
So then, who's smarter?
And also who's happier?
I just work hard. I'm not smarter.
But I do think like it's not, forget smarter. I think it is literally happier or more at ease or whatever. Like I think that's the crosstab I'd like to see is how do these people scale on the profundity scale? How do they, you know, rate these comments on a profundity scale, but also like how are they? This is not something that the study talked about, but like in levels of contentment or something in life.
I think that's the most important point right there. And I'm going to my high school reunion, or just a bunch of guys, 15 of us from high school. All these guys got better grades than me. All of them. None of them did better than me in their careers by any measure but money. None of them pursued necessarily a dream and had success at it. I went after something that nobody had success at, and I had wild success at it, stand-up comedy. I hosted a national radio show, hosted a TV show. I did everything I wanted. I lived all my dreams. I interviewed John Lewis. Like, I was wildly successful in ways that these guys never even dreamt that they could be, and that's why I measure myself the way that I do. Like I went after something that was low success, low reward, and had high both. Whereas these guys are all, quote, way smarter than me, went to better colleges, I got an associate's degree and did far better than all of them. And it's an interesting point. I would never bring that up, but like how you measure success, lots of them made more money than I did, but in jobs that a lot of people do, a lot of guys that went to my kind of privilege, public education do. And so I think you need to measure it in untraditional ways.
Folks,
success.
Thank you so much to Michael for bringing this article to my attention. And in true Faith the Nation fashion, we just didn't know where it was going to go, and that's where it went. Thank you so much, Pete. Thank you so much, Faiz, for joining the show.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And let's take a quick break. And when we come back, there's more. And we are back. and we have another incredible conversation lined up for you. And next topic. One of our listeners, the excellent Patricia, sent us this article about the apparently falling crime rates in America, and it had "Fake the Nation" written all over it. So to join me in talking about it are the wonderful chief White House correspondent for Politico and host of the new podcast, The Conversation. It is the excellent Dasha Burns. Hey, Dasha.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
By the way, I think you're the White House bureau chief. I said the wrong thing.
Yes.
White House bureau chief. There we go. I'm also joined by comedian and host of the Crossword Show, Zach Sherwin. Hey, Zach.
Hi, Negin. Listening to Dasha's intro really makes me think I need to level up my title game. I just need a better job description.
I know, you need to have bureau chief feels like a thing we should all somehow.
I make my husband call me that at home.
I love it.
So the three of us read a piece in The Economist, again, thanks to Patricia, called "Violent Crime is Falling Rapidly Across America." Now, on the day that we're taping this conversation, we also had a conversation about the political violence that we saw in Minnesota. So this feels like just strange things to be talking about at the same time, but two things can be true. So according to analysts, this year is on track to be the least murderous nationwide since the 1960s.
We love less murder.
Great.
Right? Not to be controversial, but me too.
Yeah.
Dasha, what did you think when you saw this headline?
I thought that it's so interesting when you look at data versus narrative, because when I was traveling the country all of last year covering the campaign, and when I would go to especially rural America, but really any small town America, and I would tell people that at the time I was living in New York City, they would look at me like, "Oh my God, are you okay over there? I mean, how do you walk around? Does your husband have to take you everywhere?" And their idea of cities like New York and LA and San Francisco was so bleak and dire. Yeah. And the reality was very different. The subway's actually kind of clean for once, post-COVID. So these are the sorts of studies that I love, because they are kind of counterintuitive to, I think, what the gut feeling is everything's terrible and people are being murdered on every street corner. The reality is kind of different.
Right. Which is it's funny, is we whipped ourselves into a frenzy with the Vibe session. Remember, during the Biden era, we were all having a Vibe session, but the actual numbers were okay. But part of the Vibe session too, I think, was wrapped into this idea that there was a shit ton of violent crime, and there was a shit ton of that there was just more criminality in general. But then none of the numbers bore that out, which leads me to feel like we're so much more susceptible to what TikTok and social media tells us is happening versus what's actually happening. Zach, what did you think of this headline?
Well, for a long time, for many years, I would attend the weekly meetings of the Los Angeles Board of Police Commissioners, which is a civilian oversight committee.
Okay, brag.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah.
The first thing I want to say...
engaged.
Yeah, well, when you don't have a real job that has happy hours, you need to find other ways to fill that time. The first thing I do want to say before I start speaking to the topic is that in the room where the Board of Police Commissioners meets, they have a dedicated room with their name written in huge letters across the back wall. And they have a projection screen that drops down for when they want to give slide presentations. And I kid you not, it covers all the letters in the middle of Board of Police Commissioners, except the ones at the beginning and end that spell boners, which is perfect because they're total dicks. But the police chief would give these crime statistic reports about how numbers were down. And then immediately the presentations would start about how they need more money, more funding for training. And the police budget in LA takes up a tremendous amount of the total city budget. It's a huge percentage, and they just keep clawing for more and more. And our city is in dire need of so many other services, and that money could be so much better spent than guaranteeing more overtime bonuses for officers who already have it locked in with the union. And so when I read statistics about the nationwide crime stats going down, I'm like, what are we doing? This entity has too much power, and I'm glad that that's happening. But yes, the narrative needs to filter out.
Right. That's so interesting that it's like the crime numbers are down. Oh my God, let's talk about how horrible it is. And what we need, but also, I mean, I think the job of a police department is to try and get crime to zero, right? Like always. And so I can
and
see
it's interesting because it also seems like this study was showing that some investments in like community policing and like creating more of a relationship between officers and the communities that they police has been helpful in that. I mean, one of the problems is in a lot of places, officers don't live in the neighborhoods where they are assigned to police. Like in New York, a lot of the officers live in Staten Island, but they're policing the Bronx and they're policing parts of Brooklyn. And I think like the more you can make the connection between the police officer and the person that is, you know, in the area where they are assigned to, like the better that relationship is, and the more they're focused on sort of the right things, if that makes sense.
Well, that's right. So there's one of the things they talked about were those community programs that worked with prosecutors. And I thought this was great because it's like one of those things that's like, it sounds boring. It's not something Trump would be interested to talk about, right? As like a solution. But in Baltimore, for example, they had a program, they would work with prosecutors where when young men were caught up in the criminal justice system, they were given a choice: sort yourself out or go to jail. And if you choose to sort yourself out, we're going to refer you to a nonprofit that works with people like you to fucking sort yourself out. And so then in Baltimore, the numbers are kind of staggering. They went from having 344 homicides in, let me see what year that was. It was like 344 last year, 100 to in 2021 there was 344, but last year there was 199 homicides. So that's like a huge decline. And if you look at these programs that would really track these young men and help them get on their feet and not be criminals, it's like they're looking at that as one of the reasons. And then the other reason that I thought was interesting was that fentanyl is now really cheap and it's not worth standing on a street corner to sell it anymore.
Well, that's not ideal.
Which I didn't realize that. I mean, yeah.
Yay!
When the supply-demand curve weirdly works in your favor but is still horrible, like, yeah.
It's like, woohoo, and no.
Oh, fentanyl is cheap? That's great. Oh, wait, what am I saying?
Cool. Yeah.
But also there's car theft has fallen because immobilizers and wheel locks, I don't have a car, so these are all just words that I don't understand, make the crimes harder to carry out. Do you guys have cars, and does that mean anything to you?
I have a car in DC, like not necessarily car thefts, but like carjackings like happen all the time. Like big scary violent crime is down, but like petty crime is still like really prevalent in the city. So like we can't ever have, if you have anything in your car that resembles anything nice, like, you know,
carjackings happen all the time.
Oh, all the time. Yeah.
Well, but they happen in
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh wow.
Mm-hmm. It's like it's very
also
common.
Is the term of art CCade?
CJ. Carjack.
Sorry, CJ.
I'm freestyling.
Did you just come up with that, or is that a thing? Should
I know. I was like, should.
Is that what the kids are saying?
You know, I'm just trying to stay on trend. Yeah.
Stop trying to make fetch happen, Zach. All right.
I have a car in
LA. But Zach, have you? Yeah.
I've never been carjacked. I did have my window smashed when I parked downtown one time, but my car sucks and I don't keep anything valuable in it. So
wait, okay, I'm sorry. Is carjacking like? Does that mean that doesn't mean they steal your car? I've been using that term as like they just steal things from people stealing things from your car.
My concept of carjacking is like somebody pulls up next to you at a stop and like puts their gun in the window and is like, "Get out of the car and give me your car."
Oh, wait, hold on. I'm googling the definition of carjacking because I may have
people breaking into your car. That I definitely have heard of.
Is this an issue of you lived in New York City too long and you've lost all the words that involve?
I don't know what words are anymore. Oh my
God. Any car-related words are not.
The point is, I need to get an immobilizer.
It's
I've never heard of that,
Harmonize.
but it sounds like it would be good to have.
Apparently, immobilizers are a big problem. This is great though. One last question on this, which is that the day that we're taping this conversation, it's going to air on a different date, but the day we're taping it is the same day we're talking about the shooting that happened in Minnesota, the political assassination, and I think this is like a random take, which is that I watched that show Adolescence, which I don't know if either of you guys fucking put yourselves through that. But anyways, it's on Netflix. It's really tough, but also great.
Harrowing.
Whatever.
I know. I've it's been on my list. I'm just like, am I emotionally ready for this? And
I know.
the answer is not yet.
If
yes.
you could like bang it out and then also like treat it like something that you're not going to focus too much on because it is rough.
It's 4 eps. You'll be done before you know
4
it.
eps. Just bang it out.
Bang it out.
But having watched that, I was like, I think one of the weird things that's happening with crime is maybe, again, this is from the Department of I have no evidence, is that like we're on our phones and then some of us are just getting too many skincare routines, but others of us are getting radicalized by the manosphere and going and doing weird adolescent style crimes that are like so strange and sad and horrible and based on radicalized opinions. But then the everyday crimes aren't happening as much because people are on their phones.
Oh, it's like fentanyl being too cheap to be worth selling on the street
We're
corner.
like,
It's like, hooray!
We made the full circle turn.
There's less crime because
right.
everybody's just staring at their phone all the time.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I don't know. It's a theory
Wow.
I'm working on. Someone
I
call
like
a
it.
sociologist. Let's
Bleak.
do a study.
I love
Bleak,
it.
but let's do a study. Okay, folks, that's the end of this conversation. Thanks so much for coming on the show. Zach Sherwin, where do they find you?
I'm at Zach Sherwin on social media and crosswordshow.com for all things crossword show related.
And Dasha Burns, where do they find you?
And I am at Dasha Burns. That's DASHA. Burns like fire. And you can find me on the internet, and also The Conversation with Dasha Burns. It airs on Sundays on YouTube and Apple Podcasts and Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. Long form conversation with people in politics, people in power, and like they really talk. And you get to hear them say things that they wouldn't normally say.
Yeah, folks, subscribe, and thank you so much, Dasha and Zach. And that, my friends, is the end of the show. Thank you so much. I hope you're having a wonderful holiday weekend. I want to thank everyone who makes the show a possibility. That's our wonderful producer, Rob Heath. I want to thank Gaby Alter, who wrote our theme music. You can email us at fakethenationpodcast@gmail.com. And otherwise, we'll be back in your earballs next week.